Hi and welcome back. I am deciding to do this outside, so hopefully the weather behaves because A, it's a little windy, and B, if the sun comes out, I'm going to need sunglasses. So today I'm going to talk about something that has been a long time coming, and I've also had a lot of questions about this, but I didn't want to talk about it until I'd kind of gone through the experience a little more. So what I'm going to talk about is how to use your phone abroad. If you're new here, my name is Kyria, and I've traveled to over 60 countries in the last 26 years, and in 2024, I retired early to travel the world full-time. So why did I wait so long? Because I have Google Fi. So if you're not familiar with Google Fi, the way that it works is that they do allow international calling and texts and data and everything at the same price as you would have at home. However, there is one caveat, and that is they only allow you to be out of the country for 90 days. And even that is like a maybe, because for me, it was a little bit less than 90 days. And so after that, what they'll do is they'll turn off your data. The thing is though, they don't actually turn off your texting and calling. So let me explain what I mean. When you're in the US, you basically get charged by the gigabyte. And what you can do is you can just turn off your cell data, and that way when you're traveling around or roaming or whatever, you're not actually using data. So for me, even when I lived at home in the US, I really didn't use a lot of data. My limit, I put like an alert at 1 gigabyte, and I rarely went over 1 gigabyte for a month. So I used very little data. And the way that I did that is I have offline maps downloaded. I have pretty much all my podcasts and audiobooks and anything like that that I want to use while I'm moving around downloaded. And so really, and then at work I had Wi-Fi, and at home I had Wi-Fi, and then pretty much in any cafe or restaurant or anything like that you go into, you have Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi doesn't count towards your data limit, only data does. So really, I barely used any data. The same thing pretty much goes for when I'm international. I very rarely use a lot of data. I'm not streaming a lot of things. And I do use a little bit more because of things like, I don't know, maybe you have maps downloaded, but you want to find out more information about a restaurant or something, you then need to turn your data on. But like I said, with Google Fi, what they do is they turn your data off. So you can no longer use data after they fire you. But you can still use the phone, and you can still use texting. I wanted to add something really quickly. I have been able to make phone calls using Wi-Fi, using Google Fi with my regular number. And I've obviously been able to text as well with no issues. But I did try to make a phone call using my eSIM data when I was not in Wi-Fi, and it didn't work. So I don't really know if that's a possibility or not. But I think that also one of the things about traveling abroad is kind of training people to use, and I know this doesn't work for everybody, but training people to use apps like WhatsApp, or my family uses Google Meet, and things like that are just a little bit easier, and you can use them on data or Wi-Fi. And so kind of maybe before you start traveling, start getting people used to using alternate forms of communication with you. Just a suggestion. Or you can just use your regular texting. I can use my regular texting still, so that's not an issue. And if you have Tello or Google Voice, you'll be able to use your regular texting as well. It's the phone calls that I'm not 100% sure on as far as how that goes. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. I can't talk. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So currently, I have still have Google Fi, but I have a data plan. So let me talk a little bit about that, because that's another question that I've gotten a lot. So what I use is an eSIM, and it's called Airlo. And the way that this works, your phone does have to be a newer version of a phone. Some phones do not allow eSIMs, some of the older ones, or some of the cheaper models, because one of the things I did was when I was in France, I was going to buy a phone, but I really didn't want to buy an expensive one, and a lot of the US brands are pretty expensive. So I was just going to buy a bottom of the line one and then deal with the rest when I got home. And the bottom of the line one did not have eSIM capability. So in that case, you'd have to buy an actual SIM card every time you went to a new country or whatever. So if you are in the market for a new phone, just make sure your phone has eSIM capability. And most phones will also allow you to have dual SIMs. So what that means is you can have 2 different SIM cards or eSIM cards in at the same time. So in my case, I have my Google Fi phone number, which is my US number, and then I load up an eSIM for whatever country I'm going to be in, and that will be my second SIM. You can actually have more than 2 SIMs loaded up, but you can only use 2 at the same time. So let me give you an example. I'm currently traveling in Europe, and I got a SIM for all of Europe. So it basically covers 42 different countries. However, I went to Armenia, and Armenia wasn't covered. So now I have my Google Fi SIM, I have my Europe SIM, and I now have an Armenia SIM. So what I had to do was turn off either the Google Fi or the Europe SIM in order to use the Armenia SIM. So I just turned off the Europe one, and then I had Google Fi for my regular number and the Armenia one for everything else, for data. So it's actually not as hard as it sounds. I'm probably making it sound harder than it really is, but it does take a little bit of getting used to, and it's kind of good because I just had to go through this, and so I kind of went through the pain. So I'll tell you kind of how to put the SIM on your phone. It's pretty easy. You just need to download the app for Airlo or whatever eSIM company you're going to use, and then you choose the SIM that you want and you buy it, and then it's kind of loaded up on your phone already. So I'll kind of walk you through how to do that. And to do that, I'm going to also look at my own phone so I can follow along with you. So what you're going to do is you buy it, and then once you do that, it's going to be okay. So you're going to buy whatever SIM you need, right? So let's say you want the US SIM. You can look at all the coverages. You can see that some of them are different lengths of time and different amount of gigabytes. So you're going to choose the one that's the best for you depending on how long you're going to be there. They also have one that is a whole worldwide one. Let me see. Discover, this one. And it actually has 137 countries on it, as you can see. So you could buy that. Let's say you're going to be traveling for a year. You can buy 365 days for $69. So that may be just the easiest thing if you're going to be traveling to a lot of different countries and you don't want to worry about switching the SIM all the time. And yeah, that's probably the easiest. And 20 gigs, I don't know how much data that you use. Personally, like I said, I don't use more than basically like 1 gig a month, maybe more. So for instance, I bought for Europe, the only option is 3 gigs for 30 days. And I have only used like, I don't know, 0.3 gigs, and it's already been 15 days. So I'm definitely not going to go through 3 gigs, but that was my only option. So probably the easiest one would be to do this world one. If you wanted to buy that, you would just click buy now. And if you have it and you get a shorter version, so let's say you only get 7 days, you can just top it up 7 more days or 7 more days or whatever. So you can see like there's top up packages for each one. So once you already have it, once it's about to expire, you'll have an option to top it up instead of having to go through the whole process all over again. So you would just hit buy now. I'm not going to do it because I don't want this one, but I will show you. So after you buy it, you're going to go to my eSIMs down here at the bottom, and you're going to have all of your available eSIMs listed. So you're going to pick the one that you want to load onto your phone. So for instance, since I don't have one that I'm actually loading, I'll just give you an idea. So I'll look at, this is my Europe one. You would click into it just like I just did, and then you're going to have this little section here that says view instructions. Click that, and it's going to walk you through what you need to do, but it's actually very easy. There's just going to be one that says automatically install, and that's probably going to be the one that's going to work the best for you. If you can't automatically install it, they do have a few other options. Let's see, they do have a few other options where you could do a direct installation, or you can do a QR code installation. So there's different ways you can try to do it, or manual installation. So you can see all these different ways. So if the automatic installation doesn't work, which is the first one, direct installation, that should be the one that's the easiest. But if that doesn't work for some reason, you do have other options. And you can kind of see here, this is the directions as well. You just would do exactly what I just said, which this just walks you through it. So it's not too hard. The next thing you're gonna need to do is go to your settings and go to the SIM section. So you can see that here, SIMs. And you'll just click on that again, and it'll show you, you can toggle which one you want on and off. So you're gonna need to turn on the one that you want. Hi, I'm just editing this video and I noticed I missed something, and I know this lighting is horrible, so forgive me. I just wanted to add that if you download or upload multiple SIMs, multiple eSIMs, they're gonna all have the same name. So I found it very helpful, as you can see from this video, that I named them. Otherwise it was, the name and then the name again, and I tried to do it as number 2, but then I couldn't remember which one was Europe and which one was Armenia, so I named them. So that helps a lot, especially if you're gonna be moving around to a lot of different places. But like I said, I think that worldwide one is probably the best bet if you're gonna be moving around a lot. Then you just can set it and forget it. And so, like for instance, if I had just loaded the Armenia one, I would need to toggle that on. I'm not gonna do it because if I do it, it's going to ask me if I want to have that one instead of another one, but I don't. So, and if it doesn't show up, you're going to need to hit Add SIM. And then you're going to set up an eSIM. So I'm not going to walk through that at this point, but that's what you're going to need to do. The other thing you're going to need to do is make sure that the SIM you're using, let's see, has the following things turned on. So you'll see that you need to turn on use this SIM. You need to turn on roaming. And I turned on automatically select network just so it would go to the one that was the best when I had both of them on there. But those are the 2 things you definitely have to do in order to make it work. And after that, you should be good to go. They do have a pretty good help section on the Airalo app. So like I showed you before, if you have any issues, so you can see all the instructions, but if you have any issues, they'll help kind of walk you through it if there's any problem. But it's very easy, and like I said, you can have more than one. And then if you're going back and forth between 2 countries, like let's say you have Portugal and Spain, but you only want Portugal separately from Spain, you would just turn the Portugal one on and the Spain one off, and then vice versa when you get to the new place. And it's quite easy. The one thing you do need to remember, because I almost made this mistake, is when you first buy the card and install the eSIM, you do need to have Wi-Fi, and you do need to do it before you get to the place. Because obviously, once you're in the place, if you don't have Wi-Fi, you're not gonna have data. So make sure you do it before you leave to go to whatever country it is that you're gonna be using the eSIM. And it does take a few minutes to download. So make sure your Wi-Fi connection is secure. I made this mistake when I went to Armenia. I thought the Armenia was included in the Europe package, and so I didn't buy an Armenia one. And then I realized once I was in Armenia that my data wasn't working, and we got to a cafe and I didn't realize they had Wi-Fi until I was about to leave, and like people were waiting in the car for me, and I was trying to download the eSIM onto my phone. But it does take like maybe 2 minutes for it to kind of process and download and go onto your phone. So just make sure you have enough time to do that and you're not like in a rush doing it at the last minute. So hopefully this is helpful. I know that when I was looking to travel, I was very curious, like how am I going to be able to use my regular number, and how's that going to work, and then how much is it going to cost and all that other stuff. So I want to talk about 2 more things before I go. The first one is, I don't know if Google Fi is going to totally fire me and say, look, now you can't even have your number anymore if you're still traveling, or if this is going to be something that I'll be able to use indefinitely. And so my backup plan, and the plan that you could have if you're not a Google Fi user, is 2 things. You can use Google Voice, and you can port your number to Google Voice. Just a note, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you need to do that before you leave the US, based on what I've read on the internet about it. And I did try to do it when I was in France, and it wouldn't allow me, even with my VPN on. So even though I had the VPN set to the US, it said, oh, I don't think you're in the US, so you can't do this. So maybe there's a workaround for that, and if someone knows it, please leave it in the comments to help other people. But as far as I know, that's something you might need to do before you leave the US. The second thing, which is what my plan is is to get a number with Tello. So Tello, for basically $5 a month, you can have a basic phone number. And so Google Voice is free. There is a porting fee, a port charge, I think, to port it, a cost to port it, however you say that. But once you port it, I don't think you have to pay a monthly fee. With Tello, you have to pay $5 just to keep like the baseline number open. So that's, it's not too much, so it's not too bad. They do charge if you're in the US, let's say you're going to be home and you want to have more data and everything, then you can just buy a plan that has better data. You can also buy plans for different countries using Tello, but I haven't really looked into that because I kind of like the idea of the eSIM for the moment. So those are kind of the things that I'm thinking through. So like I said, if you have any information about any of this stuff, please leave a note in the comments, because I was always looking for information, and I know other people are always looking for information, so it's always helpful, especially if things have changed or I'm not like updated, and who knows when you're watching this, so this could be, things might have changed. So if you know anything about anything, put it in the comments so that we can all learn as well. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and happy travels. Hi, I'm just editing this video. I know this lighting is horrible, but I just wanted to add that I forgot what I was going to add.